The steam engine for its type is the fastest land vehicle. And the steam team are the power behind freight and express services that make up the Northwestern Railway. This is the Northwestern Adventures. The year was 1942. Rosie had just arrived on Sodor. It was in the middle of the Second World War. I was told to get 8 engines to volunteer in the war. I got the 8 volunteers and the next day they left for Africa. Everyone attended a huge party before they left. One of the people who attended the party was a man named Wilbert Awdry. He asked the engines about their lives in the early days of Sodor. Basically anything 1925 and before. He turned 4 of these stories into the first book of the railway series, The 3 Railway Engines, which was published May 18, 1945. It turned events from 1922 and 1923 into printed form. After hearing that Thomas fell into the river, Wilbert Awdry made a wooden toy of Thomas to give to his son that Christmas. The reason why that wooden toy looked very little like Thomas was that he forgot what Thomas mostly looked like. Wilbert Awdry wrote a book about Thomas to make him feel better about the incident. Thomas the Tank Engine was published October 18, 1946. It featured 4 stories taking place in 1924. He took a year-long break and wrote his 3rd book, which was about James. James the Red Engine was published September 1948. It featured 4 stories taking place in 1925. September 1948 is also where the story takes place. James was returning after a long day taking the local passenger train when a little boy walked up to him. "Mommy, is that the engine from my book?" "Yes, it is." "His name is James." "Book? What book?" Then James's driver pulled out a red book out of his bag. The cover had a picture of James. "You know that guy who attended that party 6 years ago? The one who asked us about our early days on the island?" "Yeah, I have." He began writing books about the engines. He wrote his newest one about you. James's face became as red as his paintwork. "My favorite story was the one where he broke a hole in his coaches and it needed to be repaired with some newspaper and a bootlace." James's face was still red but for a different reason now. What? Nice talking to you, James." Then the boy walked away. That was embarrassing. At least I can go home now. Turns out he couldn't simply go to the sheds and sleep that night. Thomas, Edward, Henry, Gordon, Eagle and Percy were all at the sheds. They were all upset for different reasons. Thomas, Henry and Gordon were upset because their books brought back bad memories. Like Henry getting stuck in a tunnel, Gordon getting stuck on a hill and Thomas being dragged across the island by Gordon. Henry was also upset that he was painted blue in the books. Percy was upset mainly because he wasn't in the books yet. Eagle was upset that he didn't speak in the books. He wasn't even named. It got to the point where I had to go to the sheds or I wouldn't get any sleep. "What are you all upset about?" "The engines told me what was wrong. I tried to calm them down." Thomas, Henry, Gordon. The fact that you don't like those events mainly means that you 3 have emotionally grown as engines and know you wouldn't do stuff like that again. Henry. About you being blue, it was probably done to keep a consistent paint for all engines. James. Books are designed to entertain. The whole bootlace thing was probably written to entertain children. Eagle, the fact that you weren't named in the books is probably because you and James are too much alike. That might confuse readers. Percy, I'm sure you will be added in a book soon. You weren't on Sodor when these books took place. I taught the engines to not get offended over something as silly as a book. From the years of 1949 to 1951, 3 more books were written. Tank Engine Thomas Again was published in 1949 and the stories took place sometime between 1925 and 1935. Troublesome Engines was published September 1950. The stories also took place sometime between 1925 and 1935. Henry the Green Engine was published in 1951. The stories took place in 1935. I got a new engine in 1951 but I will save it for another story.